under your chairmanship today, and I'd like to also start by congratulating my honourable friend for Congleton on securing this very important debate. It's clear that the level of taxpayer funding of trades unions has become a major political issue, and since sunlight is the best disinfectant, it is important that these issues are debated honestly and openly in Parliament. And I have to say, I am amazed at the churlish comments of some of the members opposite in not congratulating the honourable member on having this debate. The trades unions over this Parliament, under a Conservative-led government, will still receive over £500 million of taxpayers' money. And I can't think of a single other issue that MPs feel shouldn't be debated at all. We can argue about NHS reforms, we can argue about reforms to the police, but when it comes to trade union funding, the members opposite feel that this is somehow beyond the pale to even debate or discuss this issue at all. I can only think that they worry that when the public realise how much of their taxes actually go on funding the trades unions and not on frontline services, that there will be a huge public outcry, and they fear the momentum for reform will be unstoppable. No, I won't give way. Well, we on this side, Mr Chairman, feel the public do have a right to know where their taxes go, and that is why my honourable friend for Congleton has done such an important job this morning in securing this debate on behalf of hard-pressed British taxpayers. As my honourable friend has said, there is widespread public and parliamentary concern now about paid time off for trade union activities and duties, and this is something that has been acknowledged by both the Minister for the Cabinet Office and the Minister for Local Government. They are both looking at reforming this practice known as public sector facility time. And to this end, I understand the Cabinet Office is about to launch a consultation into the extent and indeed abuse, as my honourable friend from Witham has pointed out, of so-called facility time. And so I'd be grateful to the Minister this morning in his reply if he can update us on when the consultation will take place, what its parameters will be, when it is likely to conclude, and what the recommendations for reform might be. Because the issue, Mr Owen, this morning is one of basic principle. Is it appropriate for the taxpayer to subsidise trade unions at all? And if so, to what extent? And I want to deal this morning, in the brief time I have, with the issue of principle, because as far as I can tell, it's never been properly explained or defended in public. I listened carefully to the response of the Right Honourable Member for Wentworth and Dean to the Honourable Member for Hereford's 10-minute rule bill on the 12th of January on this issue. And it was notable that during his response that at no point did the respected former minister, I'm sorry to say he's no longer in his place, actually defend or explain the principle of a public subsidy to the trades unions. He opened his response by saying, and I quote, "This bill attacks the most basic and benign feature of trade union work, the day-to-day support for staff at work by their colleagues who are prepared to volunteer as trade union representatives," which rather missed the point, because we have no problem with colleagues who are prepared to volunteer as trade union representatives. We have a problem with colleagues who think they should be paid by the taxpayer to be trade union representatives. In fact, if I was a volunteer trade union rep doing a worthy job a few hours a week because I believed in helping colleagues, I'd be rather annoyed to think that whereas I work for free, other colleagues feel they need to be paid to do it. In fact, some feel they need to be paid full-time to do it. Where's the fairness in that? Why do some trade union reps need to be paid and others don't? I'll give way.
But perhaps I could defend it by pointing to the illustration of Germany, where not only do they have the most highly productive manufacturing and industrial sector, they also have one of the highest levels of public subsidy, actually recognising that the productivity, the health and safety, the competitive nature of their industry benefits from actually having active union workforce engagement. There's the defence. How would he like to respond to that?
Well, I'm grateful for his intervention, and at least he's had a go. I mean, I have to say I find it an utterly counterintuitive claim that higher public services can somehow be delivered with public sector staff working for the union rather than working for the jobs they represent. There may be case studies of union reps doing valuable work, but there are equally case studies of union reps working against the public interest, as has been exposed by MPs and the media. And so I just don't think that point holds true. In the minute I have left, I just want to point out one new statistic, which is that our campaign, the Trades Union Reform Campaign that we have now formed, has pointed out that the TUC now receives 3/4 of its funding from the public purse, runs a surplus of 40 million a year, and is sitting on top of £1 billion of assets. The last time public sector organisations operated this sort of profit was the privatised utilities in the 90s, who were struck with a windfall tax by Gordon Brown in 97. And we have to question whether now these trades unions should receive a similar windfall tax. As I say, they received 113 million last year, 80 million paid time in staff, and as I've said, under a Conservative-led government, they will still get over £500 million. And I think it is right that we ask whether that money could be better spent on the front line, because £500 million buys a hell of a lot of nurses and doctors and teachers and police officers. We feel it is unfair for taxpayers to shoulder this burden. Trades unions should pay for representation within the public sector themselves using their subscription income. As the Honourable Member said, that would somehow end trades unions. It won't. They can clearly afford to represent themselves, as we've seen through the huge money that Unison have. Taxpayers should no longer be expected to fund this army of trades union representatives.